Hello, DotaProism here with the top 10 best cards from the mean streets of Gadgetzan. These cards are going to not be in any particular order, and they are just what I think are going to have the hugest impact on the game, whether it's because of the cards that are already pre-existing or the new cards being brought around it. So we'll just start off in order from my saved images. Doppelganger, first card on the list. It's 5 mana, 2/2 by itself. It does nothing. It summons 2 copies of this minion. But due to the additions of a lot of buffing hand cards, I see that this card is super easy to get buffed up to 3/3 to 4/4. And by summoning duplicates of it, you'll have 3 3/3s or 4 3/4/4s with cards like Shaky Zip Gunner and other paladin buffing cards like Grimstreet Smuggler, which gives a random minion in your hand +1/+1. That alone is amazing to me, and it increases the odds of it being run in any of these 3 decks because it's such a powerful tool for refilling the board. This will probably be used mostly in Paladin or Hunter, least likely in Warrior because they have a little taunt mechanic going on with those cards that are being introduced. But this card should be a pretty high impact card, and if it's not handled on the turn it's being played, it's going to be a huge problem for the opponent. Most notably, if you can get down a Don Hancho and buff it up +5/+5, especially in like a mid game or a slower game, you can get it up to 7/7, and that is just mind blowing. You can get 3 7/7s. How does anyone AoE board clear that? Not even the best AoE can get rid of it, except for like Shadow Flame, Twisting Nether, or Frost Nova Doomslayer. So I think this has a lot of potential, and it's gonna make waves. The next card is Burghley Bully. Shocker, another neutral card that I chose. Why did I choose this card, you may ask? It's a 5 mana 4/6, and I think it's very reasonably statted. I think it has a lot of potential in creating situations for the opponent in which they have to choose to use a spell or not to use a spell, much like Cat Trick. And that dynamic made a huge difference for hunters. People would play around by not using spells, and they would consequently, not proc the Cat Trick or think it's a Cat Trick, but it's not a Cat Trick. Now this will give you a coin instead, and it depends what class you're playing, but specifically, I'm thinking about Rogues and Druids running this card. The reason I'm thinking about Rogues and Druids using this card is because they always run Azure Drake, and they value that card very highly. Well, this card is better statted than an Azure Drake, and I actually value the coin as good as a card draw for those classes. Turn 5 for Rogues being a preemptive turn to Gadgetzan Auctioneer, and you can pick up a coin because this body is strong enough to threaten anything on board. It has to be taken care of. Otherwise, you'll be swinging for 4 damage every time. As for Druid, it's another card that or class that values coins highly since you're ramping anyways. Play this on turn 5. They use a spell to remove it. Then the Druid's turn is on 6. You can coin into an Ancient of War or any type of 7-drop or eventually 8-drop. Ramps you even faster into the game, and I think that's super useful. Another niche scenario a Druid might have is that you can innervate Burghley Bully, and there is no way that any opponent can efficiently kill this on turn 1, turn 3, or whatever without using a spell. So I think this card is pretty underestimated by other people that have reviewed the card. and I can't wait to try it out. Next card, okay, number 3 is Devolve. Oh, this is just a fun card to me. I think that it's going to be good because it enables better board clears for already pre-existing decks such as Control Shaman, Mid-Range Shaman, which is the same thing, so, and maybe Totem Shaman. You could use Devolve and then follow up with a Maelstrom Portal or Lightning Storm instead of using or relying on Cobalt Geomancer. And the reason I think this is better than using a Cobalt Geomancer is that it's more flexible, such that like if you have low health minions, you can devolve your own minions after you've made the trades, or if it's already at low health, play the devolve, AoE the enemy board. Yes, you'll lose attack damage on your existing board, but you'll basically restore their health to full. So you can use it for dual purposes. I think it would be good as a one-of copy. And it's another thing I thought about is that when looking at the new cards, a lot of the Jade Golem cards or other cards have death rattles, a lot of death rattles, in fact, like Rat Pack from Hunter, or the Rogue's new summon a death rattle, or death rattle summon a Jade Golem. Yeah, I think it's just a great way to hex those really annoying targets without actually using hex, because they don't count as they're dying. So that's why I picked this card. I actually seriously picked this card, not even as a joke. And also the art's sick, come on. Alright, next card, number 4. It's gonna be, oops, Dispatch Kodo. This card is good for all of the above reasons I've said about the Gangster card. This card is going to be super duper easy for hunters to buff consistently. It's a 4 mana 2/4, deal a damage equal to this minion's attack. And because it's deal 2 damage to, well, deal damage equal to this minion's attack, 4 mana dealing 2 damage is already really good. If you compare it to a Fire Elemental, it is 6 mana, 6/5, and does 3 damage. If you buff this once or twice, it's going to become a 3/5 or a 4/6. So you'll be doing 3 damage, Battlecry, or 4 damage. And the cards that support this are basically amazing. You have the Zipliner card that buffs 2 damage, or +2/+2, and you also have the other $2 2 mana Beast Trainer card. Yeah, 2 mana, what's it called? Trog Beast Rager. Battlecry. Give a random beast in your hand +1/+1. That is nuts. Like, let's say you don't run the Zipliner with the Death Rattle 3/3. You run the Trog Beast Ragers, 2 of them. You keep Cloaked Huntresses in your decks though. This is very powerful for controlling the board and not having to rely on secrets all the time. And then you also have the new spell, Smuggler's Crate, if I can bring that up real quick. This thing. Give a random beast in your hand +2/+2. So there's a lot of potential going on here with the new Hunter class cards. This card will be in almost every Hunter deck, I feel like, even if they don't do the hand buffing mechanic. It's just that good of a card. If you buff once. Well, no, I'm standing by it. You buff it once, it's gonna be easy. If you don't buff it, it's still good for dot removal. Because let's see here, Eagle Horn, turn 3, you'll be able to have 5 damage on the following turn. It's good. That's good. You'll kill anything that comes out on turn 3 and 4, and you'll take over the board. End of story. Okay, next card. I don't know what number we're on anymore, but it's Dragonfire Potion. This card is the Return of Light Bomb. This is Priest Revival. Hands down, probably the best priest card of the set. It will basically, it's just, you just treat it like a light bomb. If you guys don't know what that is, it's just did the minions attack damage to themselves, but this is way more consistent. It's a flame strike for 1 mana less, and just to put in perspective, they don't have to run a dragon priest deck. They can just run a normal deck. On turn 5 they use Azure Drakes. You play Dragonfire Potion, it doesn't phase you at all, and it clears the board if they don't respect the Azure Drake and just leave it on board. This card will be nuts against aggro matchups. It'll be nuts against mid-range matchups when you're trying to crawl back into the board, because they lacked that mechanic for a really long time now since Light Bomb's been taken out. There's nothing else much to say, it's just that good of a card. You would use it in every priest deck. I'm pretty sure it's better than Excavated Evil. Yeah. You'd run 2 of these. Next card. Jade Swarmer. I like this card a lot. I was looking at every single Jade Golem card, and I was thinking to myself, what class would be the best Jade Golem deck and why? And I was looking at it, and I was looking at, oh, Shaman. Well, there's the regular Jade Golem 4 mana 2/3 card. I thought that card was slow itself. So, but if you're gonna run that card anyways for a Jade Golem themed deck, what card would not conflict with that card and then allow you to play on curve and keep that Jade Golem consistently growing at a rapid pace? And I thought to myself, oh well, the Druid cards are a little bit slow because you have the spell where you search for a idol thing, Jade Idol. Either you summon the Jade Golem or shuffle 3 copies right here. But I thought to myself, that was too slow. There's no way you can do that. And then there's also the ramp cards that they use, and then the elephant, which is a 6 mana 3/6. I thought that was pretty expensive. So I looked at this card, Jade Swarmer, and it's a 2 mana stealth death rattle, summon a Jade Golem. So why is this card better for Jade Golem concept than any other of the 2 classes? Well, it's because Rogue has nothing to do on turn 2. That is clearly the main reason I like this card. You play this on turn 2, it's stealth, you summon your Jade Golem, which is going to be a 1/1. And then it also has the it's a death rattle, so it doesn't summon until it dies. But basically you hide it on turn 2, then on turn 3 you have a free Unearthed Raptor. You clone the death rattle on this. That's easily 2 Jade Golems within the first 3 turns. You just play on curve. Turn 1 you can play Swashbuckler or whatever, and then you have a tempo-based Jade Golem deck, which is significantly faster. Then you can follow turn 4 with that weak, or quote weak, 4 mana 2/3 summon a Jade Golem with the battle cry. And it doesn't seem so weak anymore because you just summoned 2 Jade Golems when these die on death rattle. Your board doesn't look that weak. It doesn't look like you sacrificed tempo to build up power because you're on curve. Whereas you could do a Shaman Jade Golem deck and you'd have to use that Jade Lightning, which is a lot slower, and it conflicts with that 4 mana drop that I was talking about before. The neutral Jade Spirit is the one I'm talking about, in case anyone knows what it is. There it is. Battlecry, summon a Jade Golem. So you don't want to conflict with that card, as if you're going to run a dedicated Jade Golem deck. And that's why I believe this card's going to be pretty nice. That was a mouthful. What's the next card we have on here? Oh, I would also like to mention that by making this type of deck, you don't sacrifice removal from the original rogue card. You still use Eviscerate, you still use Sap, you still use Jade Shuriken, since you can combo it later. None of these turns conflict, and they're extremely flexible, which is going to be really important. Because when you're playing Rogue, you always want to be flexible. Okay, next card. Aya Blacked Paw. I picked this card not because of the 5/3 body, because that's obviously terrible, but because of the potential it has to create new decks. Even though I said that Rogue will be the best form of Jade Golem, I believe that Druid is a very close contender if you do a very slow, control-ish deck, I would say. The Jade Golem in that version of the deck wouldn't be as large or as fast because you're busy ramping and board clearing against faster opponents. But I like this card because it is consistent and it can be very useful in creating the new archetype. Mainly Rogue, as I mentioned. Shaman? It's a stretch. It's a stretch for Shaman. But Rogue definitely. Druid will be experimented with, definitely, because they already have a strong set of cards that could support this. But we'll see what happens. An interesting thing I was wondering is that when people use N'Zoth with this card and the previous card for Jade Golem synergy, and I think it's a very strong tool to have. Anytime you can have a Death Rattle effect, since Naxxramas, and it can be that sticky, it's a pretty big threat on board. Only warriors would be able to stop it with brawls, multiple brawls and whirlwind effects. I think it's going to be very cool to have. Okay, this is the other priest card I'm very happy for. It's the first official 2-mana priest card. A lot of people think it's whatever, but I think this card has tons of potential, and I think it's going to be used in any priest deck that isn't dragon. I mean, after Blackrock Mountain gets phased out, you don't get the 2/4 taunt guy anymore. So the way I see it, Mana Geode is the next best thing. And this is actually just a good standalone card. 2 mana 2/3 doesn't look like much, but when you think about it, there's another priest card that's pretty nuts that just came out recently that buffs this on the following turn, and that is the Cabal Talon Priest. Gives you a friendly minion plus 3 health. Why is that important? Well, you buff this guy up to 2/6, and he isn't such a joke anymore. 2 attack on turn 2 is solid or good enough. And if you buff 3 health on it and you start healing it with other tools, like just by accident, oh, I'm going to heal it with hero power, you get a 2/2 crystal. That's actually really strong. Especially like if you make it sticky, it's very strong. You can power word shield it. It becomes an annoying thing for your opponent to have to deal with. And I think this also unlocks the potential for a tempo-based priest, which we've never seen before because they always missed the turn 2, or they would always have to come back or catch up on board, which is a huge issue. But now with this card, Dragon Fire Potion to help like support a tempo-based fighting deck, where you'd say, oh, I missed the early game, I'm gonna Alkanize Soul Priest Circle, and then you have nothing. And then they refill board again, then you Dragon Fire Potion, you know? You have multiple outs. This card can help supplement that tempo-based play. If you hit turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, you're actually in a good spot, because last I checked, when you keep healing stuff, like in Arena, it gets annoying for your opponent to remove. Right? So, looking forward to this card a lot. I think people are underestimating it, and we'll just leave it at that. Okay, where are we at now? Next card. Kaskus. I believe we're on the last ones. Kaskus. I played with this card at BlizzCon, and I immediately learned how fast, like, what were the best choices. This card is a 4 mana 3/3 battle cry. If your deck contains no duplicates, create a custom spell. What is a custom spell? Well, Google it. But basically, you get a 1 cost, a 5 cost, or a 10 cost spell of your choosing, discovery style. And then you pick between 2 different sets of discoveries on spells. These things can be like polymorph, it can be freeze, it can be card draw, it can be armor, summon this, summon that, resurrect, or ping. But generally they're all pretty good. My favorites are the turn 5 spells, and the reason this card is on my top 10 is because, well, it supports the Reno deck archetype. It keeps it alive. Keeps it alive. It already works really strong. It works well in Reno Lock, which is already an existing deck. It's extremely consistent. You're not losing that many stats, and you can play it on curve. Why can you play it on turn 4? You create a turn 5 spell, or potentially you can set up for a future turn with a turn 10 spell, which leads me to the unlocking of a new deck archetype for Reno Mage. It's not very new, but it'd synergize with this card, Ink Master Solia, 7 mana 5/5. If you have no duplicates in your deck, next spell you cast costs 0. So imagine this guy with this guy, and you can get a 10 mana super duper spell, but you can play it on turn 7. That is nuts. I think that's huge. And it's not like Reno Mage was a bad thing. Like Reno Dragon Mage was already being played by Kibler and some other people as a niche counter. And now it's going to be even more consistent. More spells are coming out to support it, like the Greater Arcane Missiles. So this card's going to be amazing now. And this card existing along with this card will allow Reno Mage to thrive as a new archetype as Flamewakers get removed from the set eventually, and we lose that Tempo Mage style of aggression. We'll move to like a more control-based Highlander deck. This is going to be a very good set. Very good set of cards. I believe that's the last one. If you liked my review, subscribe if you want. Follow me on Twitter. Check out my streams. And I'll come out with another video soon with the 10 worst cards of the mean streets of Gadgetzan before release. Thanks for watching. Have a nice night.